catlovedreamingpeach.com.
Auto-generated captions
Of course,
might be
anyone
morphogenius.
who's born and living whose parent may have considered not having them, but now, because they did choose to have them, that person can say, well, what if they had chosen an abortion? What if my mom had decided not to have me? What if your mom had decided not to have you? Well, what I have to say to that is this.
Nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know. How would they know? How would they know? How would they know?
What does that mean?
I can't. Oh my god!
I mean, what it means to me is that if somebody decided that for whatever reason they couldn't go through with it, they physically couldn't go through with the pregnancy, they physically couldn't go through with the labor of giving birth, they physically couldn't go through the actual being a mom, they couldn't go through pregnancy and birth to give it up for adoption, they decided that with everything involved, the best option for them was to not give birth to that baby.
How would they know? How would they know? I can't. I can't. Oh my god!
How can you value a potential maybe of something that coulda, shoulda, maybe, coulda, shoulda, woulda, but how could you say coulda, shoulda, woulda when it's not your could to could, it's not your should to should, and it's not your would to wood. It's not your wood to burn. It's not your wood to chop. It's not your life to live. It's not your body to go through pregnancy with. It's not your body to grow a baby inside of. It's not your body to devote to another being to raise. It's not your life to choose. And I do believe life is precious. I'm vegan. I've been vegan for 16 years, and I was vegetarian for 18 years before that. And every morsel, every chunk of flesh that I ate, I was forced. I mean, maybe as a grown-up, well, one of my terrible ex-boyfriends who actually mentioned in this, because he was one of the guys that if I had ever got, I mean, we talked a little bit about, what would we name our baby? But the fact is that I would have never actually wanted to be tied to him for the rest of my life. You realize that if you have a baby with somebody, that somebody almost always, except for extenuating circumstances, which are usually not good ones, that person has actual legal rights to that child. And then they can actually keep you in a place where you don't want to be. If you give birth to this child somewhere where you live and that guy lives or that person lives, and then, like, when I lived in California, I was very aware of that fact only because of the fact that a friend of mine at the time, her then boyfriend, had like a one-night stand with someone 2 years before, and then the lady, I don't know why the lady did this, but he didn't even know that he had this daughter, and the kid was 2 years old, and she decided that she wanted to move from move from California to Florida to go back to wherever she came from and be with her mom to help raise the baby. And she decided, I mean, this is a story I was told, so who knows if it's true. It sounds absolutely ridiculous and absurd, but whatever, So the story was that the lady decides to tell my then boyfriend, yo, I had a baby with you, You know, remember we had a one night stand a couple years ago? Well, we had a kid, and I never told you. And now I'm moving to Florida. And he was like, to hell to the motherfucker, no, you're not doing that. You got my baby? You're not going nowhere. And he literally took her to court and won. And she was not able to move from California to back to Florida to raise her child. She was forced to stay literally 3,000 miles away from her family because she had a one night stand with a guy. And, you know, maybe it was her guilty conscience. Maybe there was a part of her that knew deep down how fucking wrong it is to not tell somebody that they have a child and to deprive your child of their father. And then anyway, so that lady was stuck in Florida. And then my no longer friend who was dating him went ahead and married him. She was from the East Coast, where I'm from, and had moved out to California, where he was from. She ended up marrying him, had 2 daughters, and then last I hadn't heard of her, she had moved back to the East Coast, got divorced, and that motherfucking guy let the 2 daughters that he had had with her, his wife, oh, actually, no, one of the daughters was born before they got married and was like 1 or 2 when they got married. And I was actually at the wedding. My sister and I went to the wedding because they came back east. And I had already moved back east. And I don't know what happened. Like, I was like, wait, so he fought for years in court to keep this baby he had with the one night stand lady he didn't even know for 2 years, to keep her. But then the 2 daughters that he literally was with you from day one, raised them, lived with them, he was like, okay, fine, take them. But anyway, so, you know, she left him and came all the way back East Coast. As far as I know, she married some other dude, and he's like completely out of their lives. But for many people, they do get trapped, you know? So just think, if you're someone and you're living somewhere far away from home and you end up getting pregnant, and maybe it's with somebody you don't really want to have a child with, you know, for a million different reasons. Actually, what happened to me, going back to when I was in California, and I was going through a lot of issues. I had thought for a good 10, 15 years that I didn't even want to have kids because that was my way of dealing with it. And when I finally got to the point where I was like, wow, I really do want kids, the guy that I was with at the time was horrific. Another awful. It was like each guy got worse because I was so unhealed, and I wanted to have a baby, but I also knew if I were to ever accidentally get pregnant by him, there's no way I would have had it. There's no way I would have kept it. There's no way I would have allowed myself to be tied to him in that way. And there was no way in hell that I wanted to have his genetic spawn. It was like, no, he was a disgusting guy. And unfortunately, I was severely unwell in that realm because of what I had been through. So, but why should I be punished for life? And yeah, sometimes having a child with someone you don't want to be with, and then they have access to you forever, or at least for the next 18 years. And be honest, it does often go beyond that. You know, it's like these people who are so fucking gung-ho with their fucking righteous beliefs often never think about it. You never think about it past your own stinky brown nose filled with shit. Because you can't think past your own concepts of a plan. You have concepts of a plan that don't actually give a flying fuck about anything except your desire to control other people, your desire to put your fucking beliefs into law, your religious beliefs into law, when we, as free Americans who live in a democracy, have sovereignty over our own bodies and our bodily autonomy, and that is how it needs to stay and be written into law. And I I will work towards making this happen in my lifetime somehow, even if it's just making videos like this that 2 people watch. But that's what I'm going to do. Okay, see you in the next one. Bye. Also, as I've mentioned before, I do practice Buddhism to some degree, and I do actually believe in reincarnation, and I do believe that we are vibrational beings who are eternal vibrationally. So I also believe that if, for example, someone had an abortion, but then later in life they had a baby, it could very well be that same spirit being that now is being born. Or it could be a different spirit being altogether. I also feel that, like, for 3 years, maybe like 3 years ago, basically, I would say 47, 48, 49, my ages, I thought I was going to have another baby. I really did. And there was a spirit baby, Astrid, that was always like communicating with me, but I was single and, you know, I actually used to speak to her. And eventually I said, Astrid, maybe you'll be my granddaughter. Maybe you're meant to be born, but to someone else. Maybe that spirit baby is already alive in someone, and I'm going to end up, meeting a man in the future, and he'll have a child, and maybe that Astrid spirit baby will be that person's child, and maybe it won't be a girl, and maybe her name won't be Astrid, maybe it's a boy, but somehow there was a child communicating with me. There was a spirit baby, a spirit being communicating with me, that at some point in my life I will maybe have a third child, or like a stepchild. And I accepted that. For a long while I was like, why does this baby keep communicating with me? But now I'm 51 and I have absolutely no desire whatsoever to go through pregnancy again. I mean, it was an amazing experience. My pregnancies were amazing, especially considering years of fertility issues. But I just wanted to add that little part, that even if you have an abortion, I don't believe you're killing that spirit forever. That's eternal. And if that being wants to be born, they'll be born. Maybe they won't be born to you. Maybe they'll be like, whoops, wrong womb. Find another one. Maybe it's part of your spirit family. There are so many things that we could believe, and that's why I strongly feel that what you believe about things is your right. But you, general you don't get to dictate and legislate what I get to do with my body or what other people get to do with their bodies because of what you believe religiously or even in your scientific thoughts about it. I get to decide what's right for me based on my beliefs, which I get to decide what those are, not based on what you think is right or wrong.
GetLoveDreamingPeach.com. Knife Boo equals Nona. You're fucking business. GetLoveDreamingPeach.com.